Well, the Tennessee Titans fired Brian Callahan as of this recording yesterday, as of the time you're seeing this 2 days ago. So now it really comes to question who is going to be the next head coach of this football team and who's going to be the interim? What do we need to know about him? I'm here to break that down in today's episode, so let's get right on into it. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Titans Rundown. I am your host, Micah McCamey, and in today's episode, we got a lot to unpack. We're going to be starting out with the Raiders game whenever we get to that. All that is going to be is just some small things, no positives, negatives this week because there's a bigger subject at hand. Then we'll be talking about the new Titans interim head coach, Mike McCoy, and I will be talking about what he is like as a head coach. What does he bring to the table for the interim spot? And then we're going to go into my top 10 head coaching candidates. Sorry for the people that watched the video back on Monday, whenever I went for the immediate reaction of Callahan's firing. Instead of it being a top 5, since this is going to be centered around the head coaching candidates, this is going to be a top 10. And then we'll be talking about who we play next, and gosh, we are saving that for last because, I think y'all know exactly what is going to be happening. So let's get right on to it. Starting out with, though, before we can get into the Vegas game, we got to break some unfortunate news. Femi Oladejo was just put on IR, our second-round pick, who finally had his breakout game, gets injured during his big breakout game, and I'm really hoping that he ends up okay, man, because, just for the human, obviously, but there's also the football side of it where he was starting to figure it out, man. He was starting to actually, get it. He was becoming better as the weeks went on, and now he's on IR. So prayers up to him and his family. Hope that he can find good health, and yeah, that's really all I gotta say about that. Okay, next thing, the Las Vegas Raiders game. Man, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because there's not that much else to add. I have a version of this episode that's never going to see the light of day that I recorded on Sunday before Callahan got fired, and I was just really digging in on Callahan about just how bad he was in that game and just how bad he's been all season. So yeah, not a good game. It was bad coaching. I think I already alluded to that, or I straight up said it. Bad playing by the specific players, like the O-line, specifically J.C. Latham was really bad. The receiver core wasn't getting open. And the defense actually had a decent day. It's just that they couldn't hold for too much longer. Whenever you have one of the most incompetent offenses in football right now, you can't hold on for too long, honestly. So, yeah, not really the best game. Although, I am going to use this time to defend Cam Ward. Okay, look, he's been bad. There's no doubt about that. He has been I don't know, even bad is a hard thing for me to say. He's been mediocre to bad at times and bad at times. And no joke, he had some bad moments again on Sunday. But there are already people giving up on him, talking about how he's this talentless quarterback, he's a slow processor and all this stuff. And I'm just thinking, dude, every quarterback that has played in the Brian Callahan system, specifically with him as an offensive coordinator or head coach, has looked like a slow processor. Joe Burrow, the biggest complaint about him for years was, yes, the offensive line is bad, but even whenever he does have time, sometimes he holds on to the ball for too long. Why is that? Because the plays were so long developing overall. And then also, what else is there? Oh, yeah, obviously Will Levis, but who knows with him. I think that he was dealt a bad hand, honestly, looking back on it. And then Cam Ward. All three of them have looked like slow processors under a Callahan system. So at some point, you got to put together the common denominator. Anyway, also, Cam Ward, again, even if he did have a great schematics guy back there, his receivers aren't getting open, and his offensive line is letting up way too much. J.C. Latham, golly, again, I'm not going to be too hard on him because he was coming off of an injury. There were some people in the building thinking maybe he shouldn't come back this week. And he came back against, Max Crosby, one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. So, again, it's hard for me to go too crazy with him, but he was not good. And if he doesn't start stepping it up soon, we may be we may have to put right tackle as one of our biggest needs once again for the Tennessee Titans. So, again, just like really bad stuff. I'm still going to defend Cam Ward because he hasn't been able to do anything. Like literally one of the quotes that he said earlier today as I'm recording this, he said, whenever I get to do whatever I want, the league is, well, you can fill in the blank again, keeping it a PG show. Keeping it a PG show right here. I'm not going to say the word, and I don't say the word in real life. So, golly, just remember whenever you're going to complain about Cam Ward, remember the situation that he has around him, and remember, hey, it's going to take time. It's going to take time for Cam Ward to figure it out, but also it is going to take time for Cam Ward to actually get a roster around him where he can actually, thrive just overall. And who knows, maybe this next interim head coach will do that. Speaking of which, the Titans' new interim head coach was named Mike McCoy on Monday, and I want to break this down for y'all, okay? So here's the thing, right? Some people are probably underwhelmed with this. Actually, I've seen some people seriously panicking because they're thinking, it's Mike Mularkey all over again. I can assure you that's definitely not what it's going to be. At least I just don't see it being that way. Again, Mike McCoy, he was the most experienced on the staff. He was the former head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers from 2013 to 2016. Now, you see in the comment section, there are a lot of Chargers fans being like, Titans fans, I'm praying for y'all because that's really bad. And, well, maybe. But I do want to talk about some of the things that do come with Mike McCoy. He was 27-37 as the head coach of this football team, of the Chargers, that is. And, well, that sounds really bad at first, but he did get to the playoffs with one of those teams. So, he wasn't bad enough to the point where he completely held back an entire roster. Now, he may have held them back a little bit, but not by a lot. He didn't hold them back enough for them to miss the playoffs, that is. And again, him having playoff experience and him, again, just having head coaching experience is the biggest reason that he got this job. Let's take a look at his offenses, though. Honestly, his offenses were not really all that bad whenever he was with LA. In 2013, they were the 5th ranked offense. In 2014, they were the 18th. In 2015, they were the 9th, and in 2016, they were the 14th. Look, obviously, there's some big inconsistencies there. There's an 18th and a 14th in there with a 9th and a 5th. That is wildly inconsistent. It's like every other year his offenses were good. But I will say this shows that, hey, his offense was never bottom of the barrel, absolutely terrible, right? Ooh, that rhymed. No, but his offense was never absolutely horrible. Now, that could also be chalked up to the fact that, well, Mike McCoy had a lot of talent to work with whenever he was with LA, specifically whenever it comes to him being the head coach of one Phillip Rivers, who is one of the better quarterbacks to come out of the thousands draft classes in general, and is probably one of the more underrated quarterbacks in NFL history because, well, he didn't really get the chance to do all that much because, well, again, Chargers. But anyway, and also he was overshadowed by some just really elite quarterbacks. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, obviously, just a lot going against him there. But anyway, overall, this isn't terrible in my opinion. He is, again, former head coach, most head coaching experience on this roster. I think that that's obvious enough. And there were only really 2 others that were in competition with him. Bones Fassel was one of them. And honestly, I was interested in letting him try out for head coach, but I do completely get the decision to go with a guy that's been there before. And then there was Denard Wilson, which okay, I think that was a pipe dream, if we're being real, by me and other Titans fans, because we were thinking, we can get the young defensive mind in there to try and be a head coach. And here's the thing, right? We don't know what he would have been as a head coach, so that's why he just didn't get a chance at it. I don't even think that he probably wasn't even at all near the first person to come to mind, if we're being realistic. But again, just overall, he's stable as well because of that experience alone. He's not going to do anything stupid in front of the media. He's not going to, I don't think he'll have ridiculous gaffes whenever it comes to clock management because, again, he's been there before, and the coordinators get to stay in their positions. It brings stability into this overall. And here's the thing. I think that this is a perfect hint for what the next head coach of the Tennessee Titans will probably be. So let's get into that. My top 10 head coaching candidates for this head coaching cycle for the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, got to throw it in there that, well, Mike McCoy is probably going to be at least a little bit considered. He's not going to be the first guy that they call and be like, hey, we want you to be the head coach of the Tennessee Titans permanently. Like, that's not what's going to happen, but he will definitely be given some small consideration overall. So that's just the only honorable mention. And now we can get into the top 10. At number 10, I have Arthur Smith, former offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans, former head coach for the Atlanta Falcons, and now the OC with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, this one I wouldn't be through the roof about. Honestly, it would get me feeling nice and nostalgic, though, for like, wow, the dude that was that leader of the actually good offenses for the Tennessee Titans the last time that they were truly great, if you will. Because, like, okay, the first year without him, the offense was good, but it was hard for it not to be whenever you have A.J. Brown and, first half of the year, Derrick Henry, right? Like, got to think about that. But again, Arthur Smith, it's tough, right? Because the reason that I don't want him as head coach, again, he's still in my top 10, so obviously there is something there that I think could work. And this is the explanation. Like, there's something that worries me about the way that he used his best players in Atlanta, like specifically how he just kind of forgot about Bijan and Drake London and heck, even Kyle Pitts at times. The only reason I say maybe for Kyle Pitts is just because we have no idea if he's good or not. But like, all three of those dudes were always misused very consistently by Arthur Smith as the head coach of this football team. And that's the thing that honestly I'm thinking, is that the best look? But then there's also the idea, what if all the times that he had actually drawn up the plays for Drake London, for Bijan, and for all those guys, that the only reason that it wasn't happening was because of the true incompetence of the quarterback. Now, the running back stuff, that's inexcusable, the way that he used his running backs. But who knows? Maybe he learned his lesson. I don't know. But Arthur Smith is at number 10. Not the best option, but honestly, I would like it just for the nostalgia. And again, he would be at least a stable feeling coach. He may not do good, but he would be stable. At number 9, I have Jon Gruden. Probably not going to be the hire just because of his whole lawsuit going on with the NFL right now. But again, like, I put him on here because, well, here's the thing. I don't really care for Jon Gruden, the football coach. I love him, like, outside of the coaching circles. Like, apparently the players absolutely love him. He is a great media personality. Like, absolutely, like, phenomenal with all of that stuff. But I don't know how I feel about him as the head coach of this football team. But with that being said, he is on here because of the fact that I have seen a lot of excitement from the Titans fan base about the possibility of Jon Gruden becoming the head coach of this football team. I don't really like it all that much, but I think it would do a lot for the fan base, bringing back excitement and bringing back interest in the Tennessee Titans. I think that that's what it brings. And again, he's been a head coach before. He's been there, so there's some stability there, I guess. But again, like, I don't like him as the next head coach, but I do completely understand anybody that says, I want Jon Gruden as the next head coach of the Tennessee Titans. No doubt about that. My number 8 spot is Mike Kafka. Yeah, again, you've heard my explanation of this if you've seen the episode that I put out about the immediate reaction to firing Callahan. He just gives off this vibe. I don't know how to describe it, about like the dude that comes in is widely panned as the head coaching hire of this football team, and he gives like an awkward moment in a press conference, and then he just goes in and is the best head coach out of the cycle. You know the one, the Dave Canales, the Nick Sirianni, like those guys are the ones that, they look like they're terrible ideas at first, and they look like they would be terrible hirings at first, but then they come in and they actually end up doing pretty decent. Yes, I do think Dave Canales is a good football coach. Anyway, but like, again, that's the vibe that he gives off. And again, like, Jackson Dart's looking good. Again, he's looking really solid as the quarterback for this team. And it makes me think like, hey, maybe because Mike Kafka was able to help with Brian Daboll build this quarterback from the ground up, maybe that shows that he actually knows a thing or two about developing the quarterback, right? It's something interesting to keep an eye on. Now, I know that Titans Twitter, Titans social media in general would just be fired, as in like literally like fired, like the "this is fine" meme, or the Elmo with the burning in the background. You get what I mean, right? Like that would be the perfect impersonation for what would happen if Mike Kafka ended up being the head coach of this football team. Or maybe not. Who knows? Maybe Jackson Dart looks amazing by the end of the season. The Giants go like 10-7. They're either on the edge of a wild card, or they may even make it into the wild card, and then Mike Kafka doesn't look so bad after all. But again, I don't think that the reaction would be all too great for Mike Kafka, but it's something that interests me. I'm intrigued by Mike Kafka. Anyway, moving on. Number 7, Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders. I mean, y'all have heard all of the stuff about like how, he runs the offense that Cam did in college. He has gotten the most out of Jaden Daniels in his time. He's been to the playoffs before. All of this good stuff, right? And I 100% understand that. And obviously, there's a reason that he's not number 10 right next to Arthur Smith and John Gruden, because again, he has had very solid head coaching experience. But my problem with him is, can he lead the locker room? Like, I know that Cliff Kingsbury is an offensive mastermind. I think even most Cardinals fans would have told you, yeah, Cliff Kingsbury was a really good offensive mind, but he just couldn't lead the locker. That's the thing that worries me. Now, who knows? Maybe being under Dan Quinn for the past 2 years, he has looked at Dan Quinn's leadership and has taken notes off of that, and that will make him a little bit more solid in what he says and how he communicates to the team, right? But again, that's one thing that I can't take that risk on, about what if he just wasn't that leader, and then it would look really stupid about like, why did you give that dude a second chance if he were to come in and have those same problems they did with the Cardinals. But hey, again, could have developed that leadership, and that could have really happened. But anyway, number 6, I have Anthony Campanile, the defensive coordinator for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay, hear me out, because like, I know that there are probably going to be some people that are seeing this for the first time. They don't know about how I've been talking about Anthony Campanile since like week 2, week 3-ish, whenever it comes to him as a head coaching candidate. But he is a very intriguing option to me. He's a first-time defensive coordinator, but don't get it twisted. This dude has been around for a very long time as a coach. He has been at Michigan. He's been with the Jags, obviously, as the defensive coordinator, but he's also been with the Packers as their passing game coordinator, and he's been with Miami as the linebackers coach. Like, he has had experience all over the place, and everywhere he's gone, his position group or his respective part of the field has continued to shine as they are. And just again, like, and he's obviously running a really good unit down in Jacksonville right now. So, like, just again, Anthony Campanile, I think, is the most underrated head coaching candidate of this cycle. And I would be completely fine with him being the next head coach of the Jacksonville Tennessee Titans. That's a bad blunder that I'm not going to live down, that's for sure. But anyway, again, Anthony Campanile, he's a good candidate. I think that he would be great. But getting into the good stuff, the top 5, the guys that you're really interested in. Obviously, there are some buzz names in here, but my top 2 are probably not who you're thinking they're going to be, especially if you're a first-time watcher. Number 5, in my opinion, the front runner for the Titans head coaching job right now, Mike McCarthy, the former head coach of the Dallas Cowboys and of the Green Bay Packers. Now, look, I know that there are going to be some people sitting here like, why Mike McCarthy? He's so terrible. He's so bad. I just don't know where you're coming from on that, man. I mean, like, Mike McCarthy has had consistently really solid offenses across his career, and whenever he hasn't, it's been because of really bad injuries. And whenever he has a good team around him, he always gets He always just makes sure that they're not as terrible as they even should be. Like, think about this. Cooper Rush looks absolutely terrible with the Ravens right now, right? So, like, we got to consider this. Whenever he was with the Cowboys, whenever he was being coached by Mike McCarthy, he looked like a competent quarterback. He looked like a backup that could step in for a couple of games and get some wins while your starting quarterback is recovering. That is what happens. That is what happened with Mike McCarthy whenever Dak was out and Cooper Rush had to step up, right? He always looked good. And now he's in Baltimore with the Ravens, and he has looked absolutely just terrible with the Ravens. And they have a decent play caller in Todd Monken. Just think about that for a second. I know that, there's some of his clock management gaffes that you're just like, I don't know if I want to deal with those. I 100% understand why you don't want Mike McCarthy as the next head coach. But I'm telling you, whenever it comes January, do not be shocked if he ends up being the next head coach of this team. In fact, do not be shocked if he ends up coming in here and he does really good. I know there are some people that are thinking it's so unstable and it's too late to fix it. And, it's too late to fix it's too late to fix Cam Ward and all this stuff. If Mike McCarthy comes in here, the stability problem, in my opinion, just vanishes. I know that Amy doesn't have the best standing, but remember, whenever there were competent people in charge, she backed off. She stood away. She let John Robinson and Mike Vrabel do their thing whenever they were the head of their respective departments, right? She stayed away. And I think that is what will happen if Mike McCarthy is the next head coach of the Tennessee Titans. I think she'll be like, okay, NFL coach, proven track record, Mike Borgonzi, Chad Brinker, y'all can run this. I'm going to stay off of this. I do believe that may very well happen. And that eliminates probably the biggest problem with our stability issue right now is Amy. As much as I do defend Amy, there's no denying that she has definitely made us look a lot more unstable than we probably are, at least in my opinion. So anyway, Mike McCarthy, I think that he is probably the most likely hire, and he's somebody that you should be okay with. And I'm not saying that's just my opinion. No, you should be okay with Mike McCarthy, honestly. I 100% stand by that. And number 4, I have Joe Brady. Yeah, again, I've had my eyes on this dude for a while now, and he's a rock star of an offensive mind, but there is part of me that is a little bit worried about him as a head coach. I think that he is phenomenal as an offensive mind, but there's something about him that he doesn't come off as the guy that would have the most amazing presence with the players, and I just don't know if he's what we need right now. We already took our shot with an offensive minded coach that we thought was going to come in and be a great analytical mind, right? And hold on, I want to talk about this real quick. Brian Callahan, somebody was going to make that mistake. Brian Callahan was going to be terrible anywhere. He was going to be bad with Carolina. I have no doubt about that in my mind. He was going to be bad with anybody else who wanted him. Brian Callahan was a very sought-after candidate in the head coach hiring process. I know how ridiculous that sounds now, but he was somebody that was consistently getting interviews for the head coaching spots. So just remember that whenever you think, oh, well, we were stupid to hire Brian Callahan. Somebody was going to make that mistake. 100% I believe that. Anyway, going back to Joe Brady, again, I worry about his presence with the players in the locker room and his leadership. And heck, I've started to question parts of his play calling. I don't think that he is I don't think he's a terrible play caller, obviously, but I do question it at times. But the real thing that I worry about with Joe Brady, that is, again, it's just his leadership. I think that he is a very gifted offensive mind. I think that he's a fine play caller. Just don't know about the leadership. And again, he could very easily end up going to be the head coach of Penn State for all we know. So we're just going to have to wait and look that out. And again, he could also go be the head coach of the Bengals. I do think that Joe Burrow would especially go up to the Bengals front office and be like, hey, I want this guy because of the experience that they have together and the history they have together. So that's why Joe Brady is my number 4 and nowhere higher, just because of those reasons. Number 3, I did a little swap from my top 5. I have Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Chargers. Okay, so obviously defensive mind. People are probably whining about, like, Micah, why on earth are you putting a defensive mind this high up on the list? And I get it, right? I understand why you would be upset about this. But Jesse Minter, first off, is an innovator in the defensive mindset whenever it comes to him running the Mike Macdonald system with the LA Chargers. And the Chargers defense is always pretty good. And you've got to be a really, really solid offensive coordinator to hang with the Harbaughs. Or, sorry, a solid coordinator in general to hang with the Harbaughs. That's the truth. And that dude has been one of the better coordinators that the Harbaughs have had. And I 100% believe that he will end up being a great head coach for somebody. And I think that he's going to be, again, a very stable coach for the next, 15 years. I 100% believe that. But again, there's the worry that maybe he's not a fit. Still a first-time head coach and a defensive mind. That is the only thing that I think that you could actually worry about. So that's really all I got about Jesse Minter. Would be really solid, but don't know if he fits. Number 2, I have Josh Grizzard for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator. Josh Grizzard, I genuinely believe, is the offensive mind. Look, okay, obviously Dave Canales has been great with the Panthers. Same thing goes for Liam Cohen with the Jags, unfortunately. But I still think that Josh Grizzard was one of the most, if not the most important minds to Tampa Bay's consistent greatness on offense the past couple of years. I 100% believe that he was helping dialing up those plays. I think they helped with the passing game design with Canales and Liam Cohen. And just overall, I think that he was one of the best offensive minds that nobody ever talked about for obvious reasons. And again, he has done wonders with that Tampa Bay offense. It doesn't really have too much Mike Evans right now. He doesn't have Chris Godwin at all. And even if he did have Mike Evans, he's starting to get old, obviously. And yet he has made Emeka Mbuka and Tej Johnson look like some of the better receivers in the NFL. That is something that you should look out for, and that is something that you should think about. Look, Emeka Mbuka is a baller, don't get me wrong. I don't think he's that good. I think he's good. Don't know if he's that good, right? So, again, just overall, Josh Grizzard, great candidate. And my number 1, Clint Kubiak, offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. Look, Clint Kubiak, again, I don't know how he can get too much better as a head coaching candidate unless you have a proven track record otherwise. This is a guy who has been an offensive coordinator for a decent amount of time in the league. He was the offensive coordinator for the Saints, and obviously, having Derek Carr as your quarterback isn't ideal, but even then, he still got the most out of the rest of the guys in there, like Alvin Kamara. He was solid with the New Orleans Saints, in my opinion. But here is the thing that really sells me. It's his time in Seattle. That team lost DK Metcalf, and even though Tyler Lockett was washed, they still lost Tyler Lockett, and their offensive line isn't that amazing, and they have Sam Darnold at quarterback. Not saying that as a slight against Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold is starting to become a very good quarterback in the NFL. But here's the thing. Sam Darnold needs good coaching. That's the truth. Most of the quarterbacks that are having their career renaissance, all that they've needed is good coaching. And, well, that's what he's gotten with a Clint Kubiak, in my opinion. He's made Jackson Smith-Njigba is the only really viable receiver in that receiver core, and he's spammed him, obviously, but Jackson Smith-Njigba is playing amazing. Every other receiver, again, they've been fine, but golly, that offense is doing a lot better than they should have. Heck, Sam Darnold, he just got away from the Minnesota Vikings, who have Kevin O'Connell as their head coach. Kevin O'Connell is one of the best offensive minds in the entire NFL. He may be the best. That's a conversation for a different day, though. Kevin O'Connell is absolutely amazing at his job. And here's the thing, right? Sam Darnold has looked about the same with the Seattle Seahawks with worse talent around him as he did with the Vikings. He may even be playing better. That's something to consider. And just overall, I just don't understand why more people aren't talking about him as a head coaching candidate. I just really don't get it. I think he's going to be really good for whoever ends up hiring him, if somebody does at that. Because, like, that's how under the radar it feels like Clint Kubiak is. I feel like that people are finally starting to realize, but they just haven't given him enough credit, in my opinion. So, again, overall, Clint Kubiak's my number one. He is my favorite candidate for head coach. But again, there are a lot of these other guys that I would 100% understand. Mike McCarthy is probably the one that I'd understand the most. But just overall, really solid list of head coaching candidates. And I'm hoping that we can nail that. Obviously, that was going to make up the majority of the episode. Whenever you saw the title, that's what you knew was going to happen. Okay, but again, who do I think is most likely to become the head coach of this team? I think it's going to be Mike McCarthy. I have no doubt about that in my mind. As much as I love Clint Kubiak and Grizzard and, all those other guys. Why do I think it's going to be Mike McCarthy? Simple. Experience, stability. Again, like I said, that was a hint for the next head coach. Mike McCoy being the interim head coach and him being a stable force, that is a hint toward what this front office wants as their next head coach. If they were looking for the next hot shot to come in and take control of the franchise, then they would have gone after, I don't know, they would have gone after John Fassel or heck, even Denard Wilson. One of those two would have probably ended up being the interim head coach. See, hey, look, can one of these guys, especially Denard Wilson specifically, can Denard Wilson be the innovator whenever it comes to being the head coach of this team? Like, that would have been the guy that they would have gone after if that is who they wanted, if that is the type of guy that they wanted as head coach. But I don't think it is. So sorry to everybody else on this list, but Mike McCarthy, I think, is most likely because of his connection with Chad Brinker as well. And that's really all I gotta say. And again, hoping that whoever the next head coach is, I'm just hoping they can be stable. I don't care about if they're just gonna win every single game or whatever. Like, obviously I would prefer them to be winners, obviously, but we just need a professional in there. Anyway, who's the next game, you may ask, at the end of all of this? And this is the last thing I'll talk about, and then I'll be done. Golly, this has been a long episode. Well, the next game is the Pats at home. All right, so this team, they just beat the Saints 19 I think it was at home. And they have a good offense and they have a good defense. And Mike Vrabel is the head coach of their team. Josh McDaniels, again, proving time and time again that he's a terrible head coach, but he is a great offensive coordinator every time that he's in that role. Man, I know most Titans fans aren't ready for what's coming on Sunday. We are going to get absolutely plummeted by Mike Vrabel and the Patriots. Look, I would love, no doubt, for the Tennessee Titans to go in there and beat Mike Vrabel as the feel-good story of the week, right? But I just don't see that happening. Titans are probably going to lose. They're probably going to not lose as badly as they would have with Cali. With Cali, I was genuinely worried they're going to hang 60 on us. But with McCoy, maybe they'll hang 30 on us. Who knows? But just again, overall, I'm going to go watch this game just for the sake of the fact that, hey, Mike McCoy is the interim head coach, and maybe that could give us a puncher's chance, just having an interim head coach in his first week. But that's really all I got. That's it for today's episode. I have Instagram and Twitter under the Titans Rundown if you want to go check those out. And obviously, I have the YouTube channel, again, for the podcast listeners. If you want my immediate reaction to what happened with the Titans head coaching situation, YouTube, you can click on one of these two sides. I'm not too sure. But again, and if you want to see it podcasting, just click the link in the description. There will be a link to the YouTube channel, and you'll find that almost immediately because it's one of the only episodes without a thumbnail. So, anyway, that's going to do it all for me. This has been a rundown of your Tennessee Titans. I love y'all, and tighten up.